He says, all the Padres have to do is get a wild card spot because the Dodgers are showing no indication that they are not going to get knocked out in the first round again.
Well, you got the Padres, who obviously have to go a further distance without Yu Darvish, and a greater distance without Joe Musgrove, and have to be concerned about what's the time window on Fernando Tatis. But I was so impressed with how they just stepped up and battered Boston Red Sox pitching. Now, maybe they got a break in the schedule. They got the rookie part of the Bo Sox rotation. But at the end of the day, they produced. At the end of the day, they've shown some real resiliency. Now they just need to continue to do this and trample Texas, which is next on the schedule. And they got their own set of problems going forward there. So at this point in time, Padres, are they for real? We're going to find out if they can put together this winning streak as they come back home. And the Dodgers, this whole thing could change with one phone call. Is Andrew Friedman going to make this phone call? Dodgers still have a significant lead over the Padres. They're still running uphill, the Padres are. Dodgers still have games in hand on San Diego, but the Dodgers have also got this whole time window issue that the Kershaw setback, the Buehler setback, the loss of Mookie Betts. But the Dodgers do have resources and are just not afraid to take on more payroll. So this will be fascinating going forward. John, what do you think?
I am so impressed with the Padres, the way that they're hitting the ball all over the field. I mean, Cronenworth going the other way, Jackson Merrill putting up 2 or 3 hits a game. These guys are actually great bat-on-ball skills. And then Machado has had a great month in June. I mean, he was hitting bombs. His batting average is up. I mean, we're going to see the resurgence, Manny Machado, to kind of carry this team over the summer.
I think it's well said, and he's playing. I mean, he's playing through the injuries, but the fact that the power is now returned must mean that the elbow problem has gone away. Now, can they keep him healthy with the hip issue, run on the base paths? Because there's some times where he hasn't looked right rounding the bases, and other times he's taken violent swings and he kind of buckled in the batter's box. But so far, he's really bounced back. John, next question.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. And he says, holy cow, Lee, what a start to the NHL free agency today. So many big names are finding new homes. Thoughts on how Anaheim and Los Angeles drafted?
Well, let me give you just an over-the-top response and see if I can find all my notes that I made about the NHL draft. The LA Kings have really loaded their roster with veteran players, and obviously ridding themselves of Pierre-Luc Dubois is huge. Then you just turn around on the situation, getting Darcy Kemper back. I don't know if he's the solution. I still think they're not all-star quality between the pipes, but they do have goal scorers, and that becomes a big issue. In terms of the Ducks, I was absolutely stunned what happened at the draft. Everybody was of the opinion they were going to take one of the Russian defensemen that were top of the draft board, and they didn't. And it just absolutely shocked everybody. And it shocked the kid they took, Brandon Seneca, big right winger from Oshawa, Ontario, because everybody thought they were going to take Silyev, the 6'7" Russian defenseman. They bypassed on him. They thought that they might take Caden Lindstrom, a center iceman who could score from Medicine Hat in the West. They bypassed on him. And Sam Dickinson, a high-scoring defenseman, big guy, from the London Knights who played in the Memorial Cup. Everybody thought it was going to be one of those guys, and instead they took Seneca from Oshawa. And I was stunned. And I don't know if you saw the video. You ought to Google it. When he got chosen, he stood up and his jaw dropped. And they showed his parents standing next to him. They stood up and they couldn't believe their eyes were wide open that their son was taken third. I went digging and talked to some people while I was on the road, and they said, this kid's a grinder. This kid's a tough guy. This kid's a sniper. This guy's not afraid to go to the net and be where all the traffic is and do all the dirty work. So they got themselves a young player. He's not ready to be in the National Hockey League. I don't think he's ready to play for the San Diego Gulls at age 18. But they got a guy who they don't have, that kind of type of guy to go with all the Trevor Zegras skill guys that they've got on the rest of the roster. So it's a good choice. It's a stunning choice. Go look up the video. You'll laugh. It's so funny. The kid was speechless that he got chosen third. At the end of the day, the Ducks are still really young, and the Ducks have not done anything in free agency today. The Kings are obviously changing their chemistry as we go away. Good questions, Callum. Hope you enjoy our hockey coverage. John?
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering that too, Lee, because you had said previously they had too many kids and not enough veterans. I mean, but they picked up some free agents, right, in Anaheim.
Not yet, and
Not yet.
which is kind of hard to believe because they did have a fair amount of salary cap money. Now there could still be a trade coming. John Gibson's name still continues to swirl out there. He was the veteran goaltender, but he's earning a significant amount of money, and that becomes a big issue as to whether or not that Anaheim would have to pay a piece of the $6 million per year. He's got 3 more years left on his contract, and clubs are saying, "Well, we'll take Gibson. Maybe we'll give you a veteran, but you got to pick up, 2 million or 3 million every year of the 6 million or so." And the Ducks said no. At this point, he's a backup goaltender with almost $19 million left on his contract. Maybe they'll find a buyer, but there have been an awful lot of trades. I had thought the night before the draft that the Red Wings were about to make a move, and maybe it was John Gibson, but then Detroit went a different direction. In fact, Detroit signed Cam Talbot, the former starting goaltender with the LA Kings. So the Ducks have still got cap space, but the Ducks still have John Gibson, and the Ducks are still, to me, way, way too young. I understand blueprint, but how long is this rebuild going to go on? When are they going to put a quality product on the ice and start to win for the fans? John, next question.
Okay, next question. Let's go to Joey. He says, what do the Lakers pivot to? Because they have a plan B.
Well, the plan B was LeBron's going to take a pay cut. Plan B is we're going to go get a player that complements everything we want to run with JJ Redick's new offense. Plan C was, oh my God, the guys we wanted are gone. We did not get DeJounte Murray, and now Klay Thompson's gone to the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference. I'm not sure what the next thing is. There still will be guys out there. There's another guy out there that might have to be traded because the Knickerbockers are going to have luxury tax problems. Talking about Julius Randle, but he was here before. There's got to be a second tier of veteran players out there that they might look at, but they don't have a lot of space. I think they have only one mid-level exemption, which is $12.9 million they can use to go get a veteran player. Now, maybe you create space by trading somebody else, but all these other guys have opted in to stay. So you can't, because they opted in, I don't believe you're going to be able to find much value out there for D'Angelo Russell. And yeah, everybody wants Austin Reeves, but they don't want to trade Austin Reeves. So, and right now, what the next plan is remains to be seen, because their ideas, which I thought carried great validity, short-term rental for Klay Thompson, or possibly the other acquisitions, they made sense. And those guys are now gone off the board. John?
Wow. I mean, let's go to Chris here, because Chris has another Lakers comment. He says, do not stress. The Lakers not making a trade or signing a huge free agent. They didn't have to. They have Bronny James, who will shoulder a huge part of the scoring load this season, and he won't count against the cap much at all. Rob and Jeannie not getting enough credit, period.
Well, that's nice for a Laker fan. He's like you. He's speaking from his heart, but he's not really using his head. Please understand, Bronny James only averaged 4 points per game at USC and could not hold on to a starting job. He's so young. Had this kid stayed at USC next season with Musselman coming in as a new coach who would have taught him, he might have made himself a first-round draft pick and maybe be a more complete player. They really drafted Bronny James for what they can build him in 2 years from now. That's the big issue. It's just going to take that time. And that's with your fingers crossed that he has no physical setbacks with the cardiac issue. Did he get drafted because he's LeBron's kid? Probably, to a small degree. He got drafted, though, because of this potential to grow upside. But that's not going to happen on open night this season, despite your taking part in Fans Forum with your heart rather than your head. Good prospect, but that's what he is right now. Suspect is a prospect until he become a proven product. John, agree or disagree?
I think it's got to be all about LeBron's kid. I mean, otherwise, why would you take a kid that played only 1 year in college, didn't play that well, has some serious health concerns? I mean, have we heard any updates on the health issues with Bronny?
He passed all the physicals. He passed the NBA physical at the combine. He's passed the private physicals that he went through I was told that he worked out for 4 teams. The agent's dropping hints. He only practiced for 2, which makes no sense to me. But the reviews we got when he was at the draft camp were very positive in terms of explosiveness and ability to play defensive play. But those are against other rookies. That's not necessarily against a proven veteran in the NBA Western Conference. So it'll be a storyline to pay attention to see the growth factor, how much he grows going forward. But I think from a chemistry standpoint, unless Reddick walks in there with the magic wand and he casts that wand and these guys buy into his system and these guys do defensively what they want done, yeah, I'm not sure it's a better roster now than it was prior to the hiring of JJ Reddick. His playbook has brought excitement to people, and he's gotten positive reviews from a lot of people. But at this point in time, until you've done it in live game action when the regular season starts, it's just too early to judge anything. And the only known commodity right now is just they're not been able to add anybody yet, aside from the new head coach, John.
Lee, what's going on in the background where you are? There's like kids playing in the water, and I mean, it's all good summertime fun there.
Yeah, my cottage is right here on the lake in the northern Adirondacks, and we got kids playing. What's a bean toss, bean bag thing? The thing that you injured your rotator cuff doing? Yeah, that's what's going on outside. It's not somebody chopping wood. Sorry for the ambiance, but hey, dude, I'm on vacation and I'm still working here doing the podcast. Shut the bleep up. Next question, John.
You're the hardest working man in sports. All right, let's go to social media and let's go here to Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago. He says, I think the question, this is about the Chargers. I think the question is, does Jim want 100 catch receiver? Does Jim want 1,900 all-purpose yards from one man? Nope. He wants W's. This is definitely going to be a Raiders 70 types offense. Run, run, bomb, run, run, bomb.
I buy a piece of that equation. That's the vision going forward. But let us be realistic here. You got to prove you can do it. Let us be realistic. Their right tackle is a former left tackle who has not been a strong pass blocker, run blocker. He's a really good athlete. He's got phenomenal size. They're going to build him into being a good player. They don't have a healthy running back situation. Yes, the guys they got from Baltimore, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, have had spurts where they've played well, but they've both had knee injuries. So they don't have a healthy Austin Eckler who had 1,800 all-purpose yards. That's going to be an issue. And there's no 100-yard reception guys there from the mixed bag. I like Josh Palmer. I think there's really good upside there. Quentin Johnston is work in progress. They have to teach him the mechanics of running the routes, catching the ball, and not dropping passes, because that was still a problem last year as a rookie with the Bolts, like the problem they had at TCU. And they don't have a legitimate big-time tight end that's going to go down the field. There's no George Kittle, if you will. Now, the Hayden Hurst, who used to be in Baltimore, was in Carolina, but had health issues with an head injury. He can catch passes, but I don't think he's going to catch 50 to 75 receptions. And the question with him, he gets blasted, he gets hurt. Does he have another head injury, another setback? So there's questions. I do understand the blueprint. Harbaugh, power football. Harbaugh, we will throw it with Justin Herbert. Harbaugh wants to play tough guy defense, but I don't know that they got tough guys on defense while they're still trying to answer the questions in offense. This is work in progress. And once we get to training camps in mid-July, we're going to talk extensively more about the NFL. You believe in Harbaugh? A lot of people believe in Harbaugh. But until you've done it, it takes time to do this. You got to prove it. Stop laughing, John. What's your response?
Well, it's interesting to compare him to the 1970s Raiders because, yeah, they had a lot of talent on those teams, and it wasn't just one guy. I mean, they had, what was it, Cliff Branch and Fred Biletnikoff and Dave Casper.
Mark Van Egan and all those tough guys in the defensive secondary. Do you see any of that on the Chargers roster right now?
Well, not really, but I mean, it's fun to compare them against the Raiders in the 70s. If that's what we get, I'm going to be overjoyed, but let's see what happens. Let's go to another social media comment also about the Chargers. This one's from Carter Atkins and says, Lee, you were down on Marty Ball too back in the day. Geez, let them get in the kitchen and cook before you start judging. Harbaugh will turn this around. I want to talk sports with you, Lee.
Hey, Carter, let's be realistic here. I was not down on Marty Ball. I was concerned that Drew Brees might not be the right guy because he was so undersized. And, of course, he played hard. His heart was in it, and he got badly hurt, and he left. Phillip Rivers became a superstar. Phillip Rivers might be considered to be a future Hall of Famer, and they built that thing, and they were really good. And Tomlinson became a megastar, and Gates was Gates, and we know what that was all about. And then Phillip, and they had good seasons, had really good seasons, and Marty had great seasons too, but Marty's playoff phobia always resurfaced. There was no surprise in any playoff game that a Schottenheimer team played. It was the same stuff that they ran during the season, and that's why his record as a playoff head coach was just absolutely miserable. That being said, Marty Ball won 200 games. I think Marty should get some consideration posthumously as being a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We know Harbaugh. We know what he did at Stanford in a really tough situation. We know, obviously, what he accomplished with the 49ers and what he did to rebuild Michigan. This is going to take some time. Now, the people running the streets in San Diego or those limited number of Charger fans in LA, I mean, if you're trying to tell me these dudes are going to go 13-4, I don't think so until they prove themselves. But let's see. I thought they had a really good draft. I think they had one of the better drafts in the league. But until you've done it, Joe Alt, until you've done it, Lad McConkey, until you've done it in that linebacking group, just going to have to see how quickly this all comes together. I mean, that's my spin. John, you got a different take. Go ahead, speak from your heart, speak from your head. You're out in left field.
Well, I think the Marty Ball era of the Chargers has to go down as one of the most talented teams to never make a Super Bowl. I mean, you got LT, you got Antonio Gates, you got Phillip Rivers, you've got a lot of great talent, and yet they blew it. Again, Marty Schottenheimer, Marty Ball, just doesn't work in the playoffs. That's your take, Lee?
Well, Marty never did anything dynamic in the postseason offensively. When you get to postseason play, you spring something on somebody that you never ever saw before. And Marty acted the way in Kansas City, the way the Chiefs were during the regular season, where they won a lot of games, and postseason they got knocked out. Did the exact same thing with the Chargers. That to me, unfortunately, is the black mark of his career. His postseason record in playoff games was miserable. It was, I want to say, it was 5-9, maybe 5-10. Now, what happened in the AFC Championship game was Tomlinson got hurt. Rivers got hurt. Phillip had knee scope surgery, yet stayed on the field and tried to play, but Tomlinson couldn't play. And at the end of the day, with two of their components of that great offense playing against Belichick's great defense and Tom Brady, they could not win. Big picture, Marty did a hell of a job in San Diego. I thought A.J. Smith did a good job, and then wound up in a divorce case, which was absolutely brutal as a team got old. But, I was fortunate because as voice of the Chargers, we did have a team that came together under Bobby Ross, and we did get to the Super Bowl, even though we were blown out by the 49ers. So it was just a segment in which they underachieved. It was a big, big blow for the Bulls. Are they going to be a Super Bowl team 3 years from now, 2 years from now? Got to stay free of injury. And we'll just have to see how quickly these components come together that Harbaugh and that new general manager drafted. That's going to be fascinating. I mean, I love the open NFL training camps the end of July and the start of preseason games because everybody starts on the same page at 0-0, and then we have people debate and talk about where they're strong, where they're weak, where they hit the jackpot, where they failed. So it's going to be fascinating going forward. John?
I expect Harbaugh is going to be a big improvement over the previous coach, Staley. So let's see how this thing all plays out. Let's jump over here. We got some Padres comments on social media, and this one is from Poor Men Guitars. He says, talking about will a change work for the Padres? And it says, wrong, Hacksaw. Baseball is all about momentum at the end of the season. You should know that since you've been reporting on it since the Civil War. Preller is looking like a genius with Profar, Higashioka, and others, as well as a stocked minor league system. Injuries don't seem to be a problem. You're going to be on the bandwagon when we run the Dodgers out of town during the playoffs?
Well, Mr. Guitar, let me just respond this way. You're correct by the assessment. How hot are you? Are you healthy when you get to October? That's a critical piece of the equation. But it's an awful lot of mileage, a lot of games the Padres still have to make up against the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers are reeling. John and I last week talked about the question of the Dodgers on the brink of toppling because they just continue to stockpile all the injuries. The difference is AJ does not have much left in the farm system that he can trade, and ownership has told him you're not taking on salary and you're not trading what few marquee guys you have left. He's already traded 5 of the top 10 this season. The Dodgers just have a plethora of young guys. The Dodgers are unafraid about taking on payroll because they're going to draw 4 million fans per season. So they're operating a little bit different playbook than A.J. Preller is right now. My biggest concern for the Padres to be in the playoffs in a best-of-3 series, geez, you'd feel much better about your team if there was a healthy Darvish, if Musgrove became Musgrove back, rather than have to rely on Dylan Cease and Michael King and then Matt Waldron's knuckleball. if they don't get those two frontline veteran starters back, they may have a problem, even if they get to the wild card. But trade deadline's coming. We'll see what August 1st brings us. I think it's just going to be hard for AJ to make another significant acquisition. He's really done a unique job finding the right guys so far. John?
Yeah, I like what he's doing. I mean, in fact, Waldron has been magical this year. I mean, he had a little bit of a setback in Boston, but it wasn't that bad. You think a lot of the pressure, was getting to him, with his with Tim Wakefield there in Boston?
No, I just the knuckleball didn't dance that night, and he got beat. That's okay. He had given him 8 quality starts in a row. Let's see what the next start brings. Next start, obviously, I think is probably going to be at home, or it might be in Texas, where Charlie Huff mastered the knuckleball in the heat and humidity. But this Padre team of recent times has shown an awful lot of resiliency. It gnaws at you when you think about the gruesome losses. Losing that series to the Angels, losing that series to the Rockies. How the hell do you lose to the Marlins? I think, Machado said at the point when everybody was emotionally in the dumper that this stuff's going to come back to haunt us. I hope it doesn't, but they need a hot streak. If they just can continue this hot streak before they go back out on the road, because like I said before, when they go on the road, they play the Orioles, who hit the hell out of the ball, and they're playing the Cleveland Guardians, one of the top teams in the American League, and then they're going to get the Dodgers back here in a showdown series. So they just need to keep this thing rolling and see if they can close the gap a little bit on Dodger baseball.
Well, it sounds like Bogarts is getting close to coming back. I mean, he's been taking some swings.
That's true, but we have to see. We're talking violent force swings, every swing at home plate in the regular season. What's going to happen when he dives for a ball? How's that shoulder going to hold up? And which Bogarts are we going to get back? The one that was a lifetime 280 hitter? Well, the guy's hitting 219 when he got hurt. Still some questions and answers about him, and we don't know when the next Tatis sighting is going to be. Most everybody of the opinion, this could be a 2 to 3 month thing. This could be into the month of August just because of the stress fracture in the thigh bone. Hey, John, this has been absolute